Guild Wars 2. Today we are starting the Ice Brood Saga series. We're starting right off with the prologue. It was interesting to start the prologue for me. I wasn't expecting to go to the Char for the Ice Brood Saga prologue. I guess I would have expected like the Norn or something to be calling us in. But it was an interesting premise. The Char are trying to unite themselves, and Bangar has invited everybody, like all of me and my companions and all of the different leaders and factions of the Char, including the Flame Legion, and they're trying to come up with some sort of like uniting treaty type of deal. So it was, I liked the initial concept of it. It turned into a lot of map completion, which I was not the happiest about. It was a lot of running around, go help this, go do events, go do this, and that's how they did the passing of time. And as we were moving through the world, like different things were happening over our communicator. Like Bram was out drinking with Ryland, and that was all well and good. So as we were moving forward through the map completion and doing the events and stuff, that's how time was passing. So that was, I wasn't the biggest fan of doing it that way. So it wasn't, I don't know. Grothmar Valley was not my favorite map to be spending a whole lot of time on. It wasn't the worst map, wasn't the worst events, but it felt, they spent a lot of time. It felt like setting this whole thing up when, like, essentially, I still don't understand this thinking, like, at all. Like, bring everybody here to go run away? Like, so, towards the ends of this, Bangar, Ryland, and a few others go up to capture Jormog, and, like, they want to make Jormog their dragon, essentially, like Orina's our dragon. And it's kind of like that's not how that works. But they didn't listen, and they're like, oh, we have Bram's bow. They stole Bram's bow. That's why Ryland took him out drinking, so they could get him drunk and steal his bow. Like, but then they're like, oh, it's a symbol. Like, I don't know. The whole Bram's bow thing, like, playing through the whole Ice Brood Saga still makes very little sense to me. Like, I still don't understand it. Like, if it was convenient for them to have stolen the bow, like, fine, sure, whatever. But, like, it totally and completely was not convenient. Like, if they had just decided not to invite us, and, like, it was just a Char party, and, like, the Char were all doing it together, like, there was no need to really invite us and Bram and Marjorie and Casimir. Like, they weren't really needed. Like, it wasn't really necessary for us to be there if Bangar's whole plan was to lure everybody there and go after a dragon. Because wouldn't he think, like, I'm gonna stop him from trying to get a dragon? Like, like, I really sincerely don't know what this Char is thinking. Like, this was just a poorly executed plan from start to finish. Like, don't invite one of the few people that could actually probably stop you in your quest to your front door and then go out the back door to start your quest. Like, that seems ridiculous to me. That's so silly. But I mean, it is what it is, I guess. Those are the decisions Vanguard made. Like, so it ends with us going into, like, the Shiver Peaks and chasing him down into, like, this super cold area. That's where the prologue leads us into. Like, this is how they set it up. We're all here, we're all together, partying it up. We have this concert thing, and like, it's I don't know, because this whole time, like, I'm doing events and stuff, I'm like, okay. And like, the biggest takeaway was just like Bram getting drunk. Like, that's the biggest takeaway of this whole, like, map completion. Everything else was Bram losing his bow. Like, that's what this whole setup is for, is so Bram could lose his bow. And I'm like, there wasn't a better way for you to show that or do like, I don't know. It just, this was not how I anticipated this to start, and I guess I just, coming off of Living World Season 4 and the intensity that had, this felt so, I'm gonna say, like, Season 2-ish. I hate Living World Season 2. I hate Living World Season 2. It is my least favorite place to play. I hate that story. I hate that story. I hated having to do it for the Return to Seasons of Dragons nonsense. It drove me bonkers. I don't like that story. It's very slow, and this felt very much like that. It didn't feel as urgent, as immediate, as fast as Living World Season 3 and Season 4, which, I mean, realistically, the prologue necessarily shouldn't have. Like, there were no immediate threat, there was no immediate danger. Like, it was, oh hey, come join the char while we all talk out our differences kind of thing. Like, it really wasn't, they really want our character to be a politician, and like, it's not it. Like, we're not a politician. We were a pact commander. Now we're like not, we can keep the title commander, but like, we're not really have anything to do with the pact anymore. It's kind of all over the place. So it was just a lot. And then you had to go check in one more time. I did not. I was not appreciative of this nonsense. I really wasn't. I tried to just beat my way through this as fast as possible. Like, it was so irritating. Like, I'm just irritated watching back the footage and talking about it. I was like, I hated everything about it. Like, I just, it was just, it didn't feel important. Like, that last little teeny tiny section was the most important. Like, Bram losing his bow through, like, that's really where it starts. Like, okay, well, something interesting just happened. But why were they so dumb about it? Like, I still don't understand. Like, why would you try to snake Bram's bow out from under our noses? Like, did they really think like we wouldn't figure out that they stole the bow? Like, is that what they were thinking? Like, oh yeah, we'll get him drunk, we'll take his bow, like no issue. Like, I'm so confused. It's just what they were thinking was gonna happen. And like, I hate Bangar. I hate everything about Bangar. And like, even going through this kind of stuff, I'm like, listen, Retlock is my buddy. He's my pal. Like, he's been through the shit with me at this point. Like, if I've taken down a dragon, he's been by my side. Like, if there is one companion I'm not gonna tolerate somebody fucking with, it's Fritlock at this point. Like, seriously? So, at that point, I'm like, well, Bangar sucks. And it's just, it's a whole ass mess. It's a whole ass mess. Oh, I forgot my friend came along with me on this one. He was working his way through Ice Fruit Saga as well, and I was like, I'm at the beginning, like, you can tag along if you want. And he was like, alright, sure. So he was tagging along with me, like, oh, literally just running around. Like, I hated it. Go do this, go do that. And then we had to, like, at one point we were pretending to be Ryland, and we got more than we bargained for with that information. We were like, oh, fuck. Fuck, Ryland's involved. God damn it. And poor Ritlock, he's like, no, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And like, at this point, yeah, okay, sure. Like, he's clearly just a young char getting caught up by leadership. Like, sure, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, I was on board for giving Ryland the benefit of the doubt at this point. But, so yeah, like I said, this was just, it was slow moving, and like up until this point, it really didn't feel necessary. Like, if they had just dropped us in and been like, oh hey, we were out helping the char or whatever, and Bram lost his bow, and like we started there, would have been fine with me. If they had just scrapped the prologue altogether, it would have been fine with me. I'd have been like, yeah, whatever. It was just like, if it was just Ritlock calling us up and be like, oh hey, my son has a ridiculous idea to go catch Jormbog and use them as their own dragon, like, I would have been fine with that. I would have been totally fine with a phone call from Ritlock over the communicator and been like, Commander, we have a small problem. And truthfully, like, if they weren't so hell-bent on stealing Bram's bow, they wouldn't have even needed to invite us, realistically. Like, I feel like they only invited us so that Bram would be there, so that they could steal his bow? I don't know. It was just a weird situation all the way around. Like I said, I just wasn't super impressed. But they did introduce that, like, freezing cold mechanic that we have to deal with. Well, it's not introduced though. We had to deal with that in season 3. We had to deal with the freezing cold and the bitter cold nonsense. But yeah, it is what it is. That's where we're at. So not impressed with the prologue is the moral of the story. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.